The Crunching Munching Caterpillar by Sheridan, Cain. Caterpillar was always hungry. For weeks he crunched and munched his way through the fresh, juicy leaves of a blackberry bush. One day, Caterpillar was about to crunch into another leaf when... Bzzz! Bumblebee landed beside him. "Wow," said Caterpillar. "How did you get here?" "Simple," said Bumblebee. "I have wings. Look." "Oh, I'd like some of those," said Caterpillar. Bumblebee flew up into the air and buzzed busily from flower to flower. "I'd love to fly like that," said Caterpillar. "Well, you can't," said Bumblebee. "I've got wings, and you've got legs. Your legs are for walking." "I guess so," sighed Caterpillar. Bzzz! Bumblebee flew off to the next bush. Watching Bumblebee fly had made Caterpillar very hungry, so he crunched and he munched until it was time for bed. Caterpillar woke to the sound of twittering birds swooped and soared in the early morning light. Caterpillar was just about to start his breakfast when Sparrow landed beside him. "I'd love to fly in the air like that," said Caterpillar. "Well, you can't," said Sparrow. "You need to be as light as the dandelion fluff that floats on the breeze. You're far too big to fly. Your legs are for walking." "I guess so," said Caterpillar sadly. Caterpillar kept on crunching and munching all day and into the evening. When the sun began to set, he wrapped a leaf around himself to keep warm. He was just about to go to sleep when, crunch and munch, Butterfly landed gracefully beside him. "Oh, I wish I could fly like you," said Caterpillar. "But I'm too big and I have legs instead of wings." Butterfly smiled a secret, knowing smile. "Who knows, perhaps one day you will fly, light as a feather like me," she said. "But now, little Caterpillar, you should go to sleep. You look very tired." Butterfly was right. Caterpillar suddenly felt very sleepy. As Butterfly flew off into the night sky, he fell into a deep, deep sleep. He dreamed he had wings and was soaring in the sky above the tall trees. He dreamed he was a piece of dandelion fluff drifting towards the sun. He dreamed he was as light as a feather floating on the breeze. Caterpillar slept all through the winter, and his sleep was filled with dreams. When Caterpillar woke up, he felt the warmth of the spring sun. He was stiff from his long sleep, but he did not feel very hungry. He stretched and he stretched. And a breeze lifted Caterpillar into the air. Caterpillar was no longer short and plump. He had wings. Great big wonderful butterfly wings. "Wow," he said. "I'm flying. I'm really flying." So there he is. All right. We are going to make our own caterpillar. So you need to start with a piece of paper. And so I started with red paper, but in our story you could start with some yellow paper because that's the color of our caterpillar that we have. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut out the shape of our caterpillar. So this is what we need as our end result. So you're just going to take your pencil and you're going to draw a circle and you're going to draw a curvy line all the way around. So you're going to have a circle for the head and then a curvy line, and then you're going to cut it out just like this. And once you've done that, you're going to start at the end and you're going to fold back and forth and make the caterpillar's body so that it has folds and sections in it. So then we're going to start with this. So once you have that ready, we're going to move on to the next section. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue strips onto our caterpillar. So I have some old tissue paper here, And so it's just little strips and pieces of tissue that we had left over from other things. And we're just going to take our time and we're going to glue those strips on there. So all you need to do is rip pieces, and I'm just kind of approximate how large our caterpillar is, and we're going to glue strips on there. So I'm going to take my tissue, I'm going to rip the strips up, and I'm going to glue those on. So that's what it's going to look like as we go, and we're going to continue on with that with all our strips until we have our whole caterpillar filled up. So that's going to take a few minutes. So you can use whatever color of tissue that you have. It doesn't matter, there's no right or wrong. So as I'm laying the tissue on there, I'm just kind of approximating how big a piece or a strip would be, and I'm going to glue that on. So there's my glue, and there's my strip that I ripped. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just pinch off some of the top and bottom pieces that look like they're a little bit too long. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on most of my caterpillar, so that I can add strips. And you don't need to worry about any sort of pattern or any sort of specific way that you put those on. Just rip them up into pieces. Once you've got that done, we'll move on to the next step. I'm just going to finish laying those pieces on there. So it's okay if they're too wide or too short. It really doesn't matter. You can lay them over top of each other. All right, so I just have one more section to do up the top here. I'm gonna lay that on there. So once I have strips on my entire caterpillar, I'm just gonna add another piece here. So that's what he looks like. And I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm gonna go ahead and trim along the edge of my caterpillar. So just on the outline of how we cut him out, we're gonna take our scissors and we're gonna trim that up so you can see the general shape of our caterpillar. Let's trim a couple more pieces here. All right, so there he is, all decorated with his strips. And then the next thing we need to do is add all of his legs. So to do that, we're just gonna take some yarn. I'm gonna flip him over onto his decorated side, and we're gonna add the pieces onto the back. So we're gonna apply the glue. We're gonna lay him down, we're gonna apply some glue right along the bottom. Just like that. So there's the line of glue. And then I'm going to take my yarn. So again, I have red yarn, but you use whatever yarn you have. Just scrap yarn is all you need. So I'm just going to kind of organize these a little bit so that when I go through and cut my strips, I'm not cutting every single string one at a time. So I've got a few pieces there, and I'm just going to hold those. And I'm going to cut in between, and I've got a bunch of pieces there. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to probably make 15 or 20 pieces here. And then you can go ahead and add them and see if you have enough. So now I'm just going to go along while my caterpillar's laying on the table, and I'm just going to add the strings. And you don't need to worry about which direction they're pointing or how they're sitting on there, because his legs are just gonna go in every direction. So I'm gonna lay that down, and I'm gonna add those strings on there. Just lay them across the strip of glue that we have. So you can add however many you have based on how much string you have or what you want it to look like. And there's another one. Okay, so once you have all those on there, I need a little more glue right in this section. They're going to need a minute or two to dry on there. So we're just going to go ahead and let those sit for a few minutes. And we're going to move on to the next part, which is using some sequins. So I've used sequins to form his mouth and his nose, and also used googly eyes for his eyes. So if you don't have sequins and googly eyes, you can use a marker and you can just draw the face on. But if you do have some craft supplies at home, you can go ahead and pick out some sequins that you want to use. So I like to use the bigger pieces for the mouth and the nose. So I'm just going to pick a few of those out, and we're going to go ahead and glue those onto our project. So I'm going to put some spots across the bottom. So I'm going to add my glue in the shape that I want his face to be, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my sequins on there. So I do have some eyes here with me today. So we're going to use those for his face. I'm going to stick that on the glue that I have. So that's the first step. And then I'm going to follow up with putting sequins across the bottom for his mouth. And you can use any colors that you have. I just like to make it mix and match because that's kind of what the look is that we have going on. And then I'm going to add one on for his nose. So then the glue just dries clear. Once it's dry, you'll have your finished caterpillar.